Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Associate Professor Dr. Mukris Izlaf bin Osman Aziz. My name is Muhammad Ammar Firdaus bin Ashkawi and my metric number is 300555. And today I will be presenting my thesis on the factor influencing the demands for the coffee among university dalam Malaysia students. I will begin my presentation with my background of the studies. So the coffee has become the worldwide trend, especially among young people. So in this age group, coffee is not only beverage but also referred as a culture and social representation. So in the context Malaysia, our country, coffee consumption amongst Malaysian youth has helped the interest of the market researcher, as their youth drinking behaviour is affected by many cultural and economic factors. Next, let's see my problem statement. We highlight the main issue in this study where while the coffee consumption among the students is growing culturally and socially, the economic factors such as price, sensitivity, income limitation, and also the alternative remain underexplored. So existing research often overlook these economic constraints, making it difficult to predict students' coffee demand. So this gap in understandings make it difficult to predict and generalize students' coffee demands, highlighting the needs for further research on the economic and social determinants influencing their coffee consumption choice. Here there are three research questions that I would like to highlight in the studies. The first one is that do gender difference influence the income factor, price factor and the substitution effect for coffee demand among UUM students? And the second is the do difference the primary source of income influence the income factors, price factors and the substitution effect for coffee demand among UUM students? And last but not least, the third research question is the do income factor, price factor and the substitution effect have a significant relationship with the coffee demand among UUM students? In addition, in this presentation, I also would like to discuss the theoretical review and empirical review that have been used in the studies. So there are two theoretical reviews that I would like to highlight here. The first one is the consumer theory. So this theory is focusing on the utility maximization under constraint, where the consumer choices are guided by the budget lines and the indifferent curve. Next is the demand theory. This theory will be describe how the consumer make the choice based on the price, incomes and other factors. In order to understand the key driver behind the coffee consumption among the UUM students, the study draw three important empirical reviews that have shaped the foundation of the research. First is the price factor. Coffee demand is highly sensitive to the price fluctuation, with the student often opting for cheaper alternative when the price is right. Second one is the income factor. Students with the high allowance may purchase to premium coffee, but low income students may stick to the home brew or instant coffee. And the third is the substitution effect factor, where the substitution effect demonstrates how the student often switch between the different types of the coffee, like instant coffee, cafe coffee, or the vending machine coffee based on their factor like the price, taste, convenience and also availability. Building on the literature and the theoretical framework, I have formulated three key hypotheses to guide this research. So this hypothesis will be tested using the independent sample test, one way ANOVA and also the multiple regression. So firstly, let's see the price factor. So here we state that HOA state there is no significant difference in the price of coffee factor for the coffee demand among UUM students between the gender. However, for the H1A, there is a significant difference in the price of coffee factor for the coffee demand among UUM students between the gender. However, for the income factor, we can see that the HOB, there is no significant difference in the income factor for coffee demands among UUM undergrad students between the gender. Meanwhile, for the H1B, there is a significant difference of income factor for the coffee demands among the UUM undergrad students between the gender. And last but not least, for the third factor, which is the substitution factor, here we see that the HOC, there is no significant difference in the substitution effect for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students between the gender. Meanwhile, for the H1C, there is a significant difference in the substitution effect for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students between the gender. Next, let's see about the one-way ANOVA test. Firstly, the price factor, HOA, there is no significant difference in the price of coffee factor for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students across different primary sources of income. However, for the H1A, there is a significant difference in the price of coffee factor for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students across different primary sources of income. And the second factor is the income factor. We can see that HOB, there is no significant difference in the income factor for the coffee demands among the UUM undergrad students across the different primary sources of income. However, for the H1B, there is a significant difference in the income factor for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students across the different primary sources of income. And lastly, for the third factor, the substitution factor, we can see here HOC, there is no significant difference in the substitution effect for the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students across the different primary sources of income. And for the H1C, we can see there is a significant difference in the substitution effect coffee among UUM undergrad students across different primary sources of income. Last but not least, let's see the regression test. HO state there is no significant relationship between the price factor, income factor, and the substitution effect on the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students. However, for the H1, it states that there is a significant relationship between the price factor, income factor, and the substitution effect on the coffee demand among UUM undergrad students. Next, let's go to the conceptual framework. This paper is focused on the coffee demand among undergrad students in University Utara Malaysia. This study, hypothesis testing is used to look at the significant level between the independent variables such as the price factor, income factor, and substitution factor with the dependent variable like coffee demand. As I mentioned earlier, our target respondents came from University Utara Malaysia undergrad students from each college. The total of the University Utara Malaysia undergrad student is 19,685 students. This contributes with the College of Business with the 5,015 students, from the College of Arts and Science 10,571 students, and also from the College of Law, Government and International Studies (COGIS) contribute with the 4,099 students. Next, sampling techniques. In this study, a stratified convenience sampling method was used to collect the data of the University Utara Malaysia undergrad students for the studies. For the College of Arts and Science, the sample is 96. For the College of Business, the sample is a 202, and for the COGIS is the 79. For this chapter, I also will explain the data collection procedure and the data analysis techniques. The primary data of the study is collected by using Google Form constructed based on the questionnaire. The Google Form is distributed to those interested through the online platforms such as WhatsApp and Telegram. The study also used the tool IBM SPSS Statistic version 35 to perform the data analysis. Some of the techniques are used include the descriptive analysis, independent sample t-test, one-way ANOVA, and also multiple regression. Furthermore, for the result, the independent sample test will be used to test. Next, I will explain about the data analysis and finding. First one is the hypothesis testing. The independent sample test will be used to test the hypothesis testing to address the second objective. So based on this table, it shows the result of a t-test analysis between the gender and the price of coffee factor. So based on the t-test result, the assumption of equivariance is met, as shown by the Levin test, where p equal to 0.727. However, the result show there is no significant difference in the price of coffee factor facing the coffee demand among UUM students between the gender, where the p-value is 0.200, which is higher than significant level 0.05. Therefore, HOA is not rejected. Next, for the second independent sample t-test is the income factor. Based on this table, it shows the result of a t-test analysis between the gender and the income factor. So based on the t-test result, the assumption of equivariance is met, as shown by the Levin test, where the p equal to 0.878. However, the result shows there is no significant difference in the income factor influencing the coffee demand among UUM students between the gender. Because of p-value is at 0.552, which is higher than significant level 0.05. Therefore, HOB is not rejected. Next, for the third independent sample t-test is the substitution effect factor. From this table, we can see the result of the t-test analysis between the gender and the substitution effect factor. So based on the t-test result, the assumption of equivariance is also met, as shown by the Levin test, where the p equal to 0.34. However, the result shows there is no significant difference in the substitution effect factor influencing the coffee demand among UUM students between the gender, because of the p-value is a 0.307, which is the higher compared to the significant level. Therefore, HOC is not rejected as well. Next, let's see the result from the one-way ANOVA analysis. One-way ANOVA analysis is used to test whether there is a difference in the financial source influence the factor that affect the coffee demand among UUM students. So based on this table, it shows the result of one-way ANOVA test for the price of coffee factor across different primary sources of income. The result shows there is no significant difference in the price of coffee factor for the coffee demand among UUM students across different primary sources of income, because of the p-value is 0.95, which is greater than significant level 0.05. Therefore, HOA is not rejected. Next, let's see the one-way ANOVA analysis result for the income factor. So this table also shows the result of the one-way ANOVA test for the income factor across different primary sources of income. The result shows there is no significant difference in the income factor for the coffee demand among the UUM students across the different primary sources of income, because of the p-value is 0.366, which is greater than 0.05, the significant level. Therefore, HOP is not rejected. Last but not least, let's discuss about the one-way ANOVA analysis for the substitution effect factor. So from this table, we show the result of one-way ANOVA analysis test for the substitution effect factor across different primary sources of income. The results show there is no significant difference in the substitution effect factor for the coffee demand among UUM students across the primary source of income because of the p-value is a 0.945, which is greater than significant level 0.05. Therefore, HOC is not rejected as well. Next, I will explain to you about the regression analysis. This analysis is carried out to see how far this factor influences the coffee demands through the methods of ordinary least square. So according to this table, the value of the R square is the 0.306, which show that almost 30% of the variance in the demand of the coffee can be explained by the three independent variables in this model. So the regression analysis result for the three factor show a significance and a positive relationship with the coffee demand. Besides that, among the three independent variables, the income factor is the most dominant factor, followed by the substitution effect factor and the price of the factor. From here, we also can see the F test value is the 21.448, which does the overall significance of the regression model. So since the F value is larger, it suggests that the three variables collectively explain a significant amount of variance in the coffee demand among UUM students. Next, let's see how the OS regression model can be explained in the estimated regression equation. Here we have the coffee demand equal to 0.1198 plus the 0.168 price of coffee factor plus 0.427 the income factors and plus 0.264 the substitution effect factor. Next, let me explain to you about the regression analysis. So let's see in more details how each factor affect the coffee demand. So first one is the price factor. So here we state that for the null hypothesis HO equal to the beta 1 equal to 0, which means that price of the coffee factor has no significant relationship with the coffee demand. However, for the alternative hypothesis H1 equal to the beta 1 is not equal to 0, which means that price of factor has a significant relationship with the coffee demand. So from the regression analysis result, we can say that the p-value for the price of the coffee factor is the 0.221, which is greater than the significant level 0.05. So HO is not rejected. The coefficient value of the 0.168 indicate that for every unit's increase in the price of coffee factor, the coffee demand will increase by 0.168, assuming other variable remain constant. Therefore, the price of coffee factor has a positive but not significant effect on the coffee demand. Next, let's see the regression analysis for the second factor, which is the income factor. Here we state that for the HO, beta 2 is equal to 0, which means that income allowance factor has no significant relationship with the coffee demand. However, for the H1, beta 2 is not equal to 0, which means that income factor has a significant relationship with the coffee demand. So here, from the regression analysis result, we can see that the p-value for the income factor is less than 0.01, which means that is lower than the significant level 0.05. Therefore, HO is rejected. So here, the coefficient value is the 0.427, which show that for every one unit increase in the income factor will increase the coffee demand by 0.427 unit as well, assuming other variables remain constant. So this result show the income factor has a significance and a positive effect on the coffee demand. Last but not least, let's see the regression analysis for the third factor, which is the substitution effect factor. So the null hypothesis HO equal to the beta 3 is equal to 0, which means that the substitution effect has no significant relationship with the coffee demand. However, for the alternative hypothesis H1, which is the beta 3 is not equal to 0, which indicates that substitution effect factor has a significant relationship with the coffee demand. So from the result, we can simply see the p-value for the substitution effect factor is the 0.036, which is lower than the significant level 0.05. So the coefficient value for the substitution effect is the 0.264, which show that for every one unit increase in the substitution effect factor, we will increase the coffee demand by 0.264 units. So this result show the substitution effect has a significance and a positive effect on the coffee demand. As for the last part, I will summarize my finding. Firstly, let's see what is the summary for the gender difference affect the price of coffee factor, income factor and the substitution effect factor in the coffee demands among UUM students. So based on the t-test analysis that we have done before this, the research indicate that there is no significant difference in the price of coffee, the income factor, even the substitution effect factor between the male and female student. So this result implies that the male and the female student view the determinants of the coffee demand more or less in the same light. Next, let's see the summary of findings for the difference in the student's primary source of income affect the price of the coffee factor, income factor and also substitution effect factor in the coffee demand among the UUM student. So based on the one-way ANOVA analysis, it shows the effect of this source of income on the independent variable is not the significantly different. Therefore, the result indicates that the student's primary source of income has no impact on their coffee demand. Next, for the third finding, we can summarize the relationship between the price factor, income factor, and also substitution effect factor towards the coffee demands among the UUM students. So this factor has a positive and a significant relationship with the coffee demand. Based on the previous analysis, we also can find out that the income factor has become the influential factor that influence the coffee demands among the UUM students, suggesting that students with the higher allowance tend to purchase more coffee. Instead, the students who have a lower allowance. Based on this finding, I can simply list a few recommendations for the UUM management and also government. The first one is the UUM can provide more financial aid, especially for those who are coming from the low socio-economic background. And then second one is the UUM management could cooperate with the coffee vendor on the campus to offer discount or certain price in order to make sure that it's affordable for students to purchase the coffee. And the last one is that the government can also play a consider policy will provide the more financial supports to the university students so that all of the students can have the access to the campus service such as various form of foods and also beverage. There are three limitations that have been faced during this thesis. The first one is the limitation comes from the nascent sample size and its representation, and the second one is the exclusion of other potential relevant variables, and last but not least, a stratified sampling method that did not reflect the actual distributions of the students across the college. Here I provide the three recommendations for future study. The first one is the researcher might investigate further determinants of the coffee demands other than these three factors, and also the researchers can also increase their sample size, and also further studies may explore longitudinal research to examine how students' coffee demands change over time given change in the social structures and such as income or new technologies.